What is biology? Bio means living or life, logy means is to study, right? Here the definition of biology is the study of living organisms, means which very diversity is there, right? And living process means physiology occurring in them, right? Father was the father of biology was Aristotle, we have to remember, right? Whenever we learn anything, we try to learn in a small chunks, right? As we know that. And just if we have to read the physiological and the behavior aspect of the organisms, we go to molecular level, right? And this type of the reading biology, that we call that reductionologist approach, which is a psychochemical approach, we have to understand. Chemical properties are also has been studied, and as well as physical properties are also, right? This is a branch of biology, the botany and the zoology. Zoology what comes from like zoo or animals, right? Which was like the father of biology, who was Aristotle, and as well as like zoology, which was the modern embryology, right? And botany is the study of plants. What is cell here? Like we have to go on the depth. Like cell is the structure and a functional unit of life. A structure, like it makes the structure of the organisms, and a functional means all the metabolic activities and the functions which take place in the cell only. Life, like we have to understand that anything which is less than a complete cell is not living. As it is mentioned, a cellular level organization is a defining feature of all living organisms here, and a unit, it repeats itself to make a larger structure, right? Okay, note, like with the advancement in electron microscopy, 1950s, the minute details of the cell were seen here. Minute what? Ribosomes, endoplasmic reticulum, cell membrane, right? Yeah. Now, discovery of cell. Robert Hooke, he's a scientist. He like saw like cork cells that was dead of oak plants. Like as we can see, that is a structure which is a honeycomb-like structure that we call the cell wall as well. Empathy, that was empathy compartments named cellula, and because of this, we discuss about the cell in this book, Macrographia. The Robert Hooke was seen cell wall, term was cell. Anton von Leeuwenhoek, he described a living cell for the first time, which was motile cells like protozoa and bacteria. And Anton called these cells that was animalcules. Robert Brown discovered a nucleus, which is also called brain of the cell. We have to remember, right? Types of organisms based on the number of cells here. As we know that the unicellular organisms and the multicellular organisms here. The unicellular means one organisms contain only one cell. And the multicellular means organisms body contain more than one cell, right? The examples of unicellular, the bacteria, blue green algae, protista, right? Yeast, chlamydomonas. And the multicellular example is mentioned the most fungi except yeast, most plants like except chlamydomonas, and all animals. Speciality is what? Unicellular organisms can live, exist independently, and all other ancient functions for the life are performed by the single cell only, right? And cell theory like Schleiden and Schwann, they were two scientists. Both was from the German, and Schleiden was botanist at the time of 1838, and Schwann, he was a zoologist at the time of 1839. Schleiden, he observed different plants and said that different plants are made of the different types of tissue, or like different types of cells that makes different type of tissue. And Schwann, like who observed the animal cells and observed a thin layer in all animal cell, which is now called as cell membrane or plasma membrane, right? When he observed plant cell, he found that the plant cells have more layer, okay, or to cell membrane that we call as cell wall layer, okay, and cell wall that was a unique in plant cell, okay, yeah. Now we have to understand the hypothetics in various theory. Here, the Schwann, who was alone, gave a hypothetics that plants and animals are the form of the cells and product of cells. We have to remember the hypothetics means what? Need to be proved experimentally and not in a theory is matched. Okay, now the Schleiden and Schwann both was formulated a cell theory according to him. According to them, like all organisms are made of the cells and product of cell. What was the drawback? The cell theory cannot explain the origin of new cell. And at the time of 1855, the Rudolf Virchow modified the cell theory by saying omnicellular and e-cellular, right? New cells arise from pre-existing cell, which we have to remember. There was the exception, which was virus not having its own cell, as we can see that, right? Now just we can see that the NCERT line by line here, right? Biology is the study of the living organisms here, right? And it is a cell theory that emphasizes the unity underlying this diversity of and cellular organization of all life forms, as you can see that. Biology is the study of living organisms. It is a cell theory that emphasizes the unity underlying this diversity of forms, right? Yeah. And in studying and understanding the physiological and behavior process, one can take a physiochemical approach and use cell-free system to investigate this approach, which was the molecular terms we have to remember here, right? Yeah. And we can also understand this question that which one of the following statement refers to the reductional biology? So obviously, physiochemical approach to study and understand the living organisms. Okay, all are wrong here. Unicellular organisms are capable of independent existence, as we have studied about it, and performing the essential functions. Anything less than a complete structure of a cell does not ensure like independent living. Okay, yeah, and cell is the fundamental and structural functional unit of all living organisms. Leeuwenhoek's first saw describe a live cell, and Robert Brown later discovered a nucleus, right? And that was the electron microscope, which we have to remember. Like, you know what, Descladen, and who was a German botanist, and large number of plants was there. All plants are composed of different kinds of cells, which form a different type of tissue. Exact NCERT line. Schwann, 1839, British note, that was German zoologist, updated, right? And they studied different types of animal cells. Like, they reported that the cells had a thin outer layer, which is called plasma membrane nowadays. Presence of a cell wall is a unique character of the plant. Okay, and Schwann proposed the hypothesis in the bodies of animals and plants are composed of a single and product cell. Composed of cells and product of cell. Schleiden and Schwann together formulated the cell theory, right? And this theory, however, did not explain how new cells are formed here. Rudolf Virchow explained the cell divided new cells are formed by pre-existing cell omnicellular and e-cellular. He modified the hypothesis of Schleiden and Schwann to give cell theory in the final shape, right? All organisms are composed of a single and product of cell. All cells arise from pre-existing cell. We have to remember here. Question: a major breakthrough in the studies of the cell came with the development of electron microscope. This is because of, the key points is mentioned: the microscope, which is termed used as electron beam, where the resolution is high and the wavelength is low, and it cannot be used for leaving a specimen, but electron beam can destroy a specimen, right? That's the reason electron microscope is more powerful than the light microscope is used a beam of electrons. Wavelength much longer, no. The radiation power of the electron microscope is much higher than the light of the microscope, yeah, of course. Names of this Schleiden and Schwann are associated with cell theory. Resolution power is the ability to. Resolution means what? High, which has the electron microscopy, and electron microscopy means high magnification. So obviously, distinguish two close points we have to remember. Electron microscope has a high resolution power. This is due to the very low wavelength of electron beam. Yeah. Unicellular means like living. Microscopic organisms refers studied by example was the bacteria, which comes under the Leeuwenhoek. Correct answer. The most likely method used to determine the structure details of the organism is electron microscopy. The figure of cork cells seen by the Robert Hooke were published in the book of Macrographia we have studied. Robert Hooke discovered the dash cell. Which cell? Cell wall. This question we can say that which of the following statement is true for the cell theory? See, right. So Matthias Schleiden, a German botanist, observed that all plants are composed of different kinds of cells and product of cells. And Theodor Schwann, a German zoologist, reported a cell and animal cells had a thin outer layer which is in plasma membrane. Martin Schleiden, based on the study of plants tissue presence of a cell wall, the unique character. No, not Schleiden. There should be Schwann, right? And option number 4, like this, we can see that Schwann proposed the hypothesis that the bodies of animals and plants are composed of a cell and product of cell. Rudolf Virchow first explained the cell that divided into new cells are formed from pre-existing cells. Yeah, of course. So option number C, 1, 2, 4, and 5 is the correct answer. Next. Unicellular organisms are capable of independent existing and performing the essential functions of life. Statement 2. Anton von Leeuwenhoek first saw and described the live cell. Robert Hooke later discovered the nucleus. No, not Robert Hooke. Robert Brown should be there. Statement 1 is correct. Statement 2 is incorrect. That's all.